Yo, good morning and what's going on, guys? It is Tuesday, March 11th or 12th, I believe. Just about 9 a.m. It's actually Wednesday. And I'm pretty much just hitting record and trying to get right into it. Didn't watch the previous videos before this. Not too sure, but I do have like a rough idea of what I want to talk about. But basically, I just wanted to get back in front of the camera, kind of for the weekly update, go over, what we've been working on and kind of where we're at. Got a lot of good news. So yeah, just kind of bear with me. For those of you who haven't watched one of these videos before, I make kind of like self-help, self-improvement videos about my life that I split into little time periods, usually about 6 months, where last one being road to success. My main goal was get shredded and make 10K a month in my business, which, if you can't tell, which I love doing this part, not the best angle, but pretty much got there shredded. We used to have like a little higher body fat percentage, and then our last month in December we did hit 10K in top line, so that was super cool. Really showed me when you stick with a process and you continue to work towards the same inputs while minimalizing distraction, you can get pretty much whatever you want. And it's I'd have to say, yeah, it really did change my life, because I mean, for the last 5 years I've always set goals for myself. I'm 24. That was when I was about 19, post-military. I really started realizing, like, when I was in the military, the goals were kind of set for me. You could kind of pick your goals, but you didn't have complete freedom. So once I was out, I realized, like, there is no difference now. The training wheels are just off. So that was my college experience, or training wheel adulthood experience, that just really jumped me into the game of life. So I definitely have a altered perspective on adulthood and life just based off my experiences, but hopefully you can take what you can from it. Ultimately, the goal of these videos is for me to look back on and reflect, review, and basically just see the progress that's going towards each week, each growth period, series, and just kind of see the stepping stones, see what works, see what doesn't, and then ultimately just kind of like profess my ideas into reality, right? So this is one of the first steps. So we talk about, what's been going on, what is going on, and what will be going on in our current life in accordance with our goals. I also make this for other people who maybe don't have the perfect sight and or direction in which they want to go, or really just anyone that it could benefit you from listening to. So yeah, with that being said, we'll go ahead and get into this video. I'm going to split it up into 2 parts. The first part being the main part, where we always kind of go over the main 8 foundations / pillars of my life that I use. I watched a video last night, and this is actually I believe a term called Entropy, which is very common in video games. Basically, and I want to kind of dive deeper into entropy and how it works. It's definitely, I think it's a term used in physics, like definitely in science, but something about like it's like you want entropy. When you lose entropy, you kind of like lose almost like direction, or you lead into chaos. So this is my way of not losing entropy, and it's worked pretty successfully for the last 2.5 years, give or take. Shit happens, but yeah, basically my 8 pillars of faith are in this order: God, health and wellness, relationships, which was how they originally were ranked. I've actually swapped them and put relationships above health and wellness just recently, but there's a little debate on that. And it depends on also how I define those terms, obviously. After that, we have business and career, and then from there, we have goals or systems, goals and systems, finance, education. And I swapped out this last one pretty recently, which was like hobbies and interests, with just content creation. just because I think hobbies and interests can kind of be bled into specifically health and wellness, relationships, God, kind of interact in all those. Like they all kind of can go together. For example, you practice finance for personal, like, relationships and, business, right, and career, and then you also educate yourself in all of these aspects. You set goals in all of these aspects. You need health to operate highly in all of these. But I just felt like it would be better to switch it out with content creation, just based off of the way the world's going, based off of my other goals. I think it correlates a little better. I want that to maybe be the main hobby or interest, or like an element of that in some sense, or interests, right? So if I have an interest, it can be content. Not that every interest has to be content, but I just think there's a lot of upside on that. That would be more important on focusing that than focusing on hobbies and interests, right? So yeah. So kind of breaking those down, I haven't really given much thought, but I have like a rough idea of like areas I kind of need to improve in. I think baseline level, I've been doing pretty decent, but could be doing better in all aspects. So we're just gonna kind of put it as that. In relation to God, it's just about putting Him first in everything you do, identifying sin and then asking Him to remove it for you. And I think that's ultimately all you can do. Jesus does it all, so you just have to have faith in Him, and you need to maybe, it's not works that make it work, but there's like ways to almost like fuel your faith that I would say are important. So always, there's a good metaphor, analogy, basically just like giving Him the first slice of the pie, right? So if all these pillars are entities at a table, and I'm breaking down the birthday cake, cutting up the birthday cake, I'm gonna give God the first slice. Like, it doesn't matter if it's bigger, smaller. Obviously He gets like the whole cake, right? But He's getting the first slice, 100%. He's getting the corner slice, the big slice. That's how it needs to be. So that's what I have for God right now. I recommend any of you guys that are struggling, or just even if you're doing good, to just check if your goodness is correct, because that's a thing too. Like, things could be going really well, but that doesn't mean your perception of them going well doesn't mean they're well, unless you believe that you are your own God, and you are your own decider of morality and fate. So I would really bring back the lens of the divine creator, and operate through what He would say is successful. And that's a personal prayer and manifestation for myself, that I would also recommend to others. So going into relationships, I think just being more present is the most important part. Being more intentional, spending time correctly with the right people, and then ultimately remembering, like, you can die the next day, right? And then valuing your relationships, and prioritizing them importantly is always good. It's easy to follow, just emotion or just maybe logic, but again, that's kind of where it comes back to, where do you get your good and bad from? Do you get it from God? Do you get it from TV? Do you get it from how you're feeling that day? Having a strong base, and then focusing on the relationships that are important based off of God, and then continually to reach your other goals, I think is just the best way to do it, even if it's not the easiest way. So that's a big thing too, right? A lot of these things are not just natural. We want to turn them into systems and habits. They're not always instant gratified relationships. There's relationships you have to build, you have to work on. And that's kind of how I'm at with, like, coworkers, like family members, significant others, right? Like stuff like that. that's kind of stuff I want to work on and build on. So going into health and wellness, right? We have pretty good physique, but we're really relying on some supplements right now that I'm having issues getting readily available to me. So for example, we're kind of like in a personal testosterone shortage, and that's something like I heavily rely upon, probably high up importance in my life, like very, very, very valuable in a sense of making sure everything else functions correctly. So that's like a big like kind of bleeping red flag where like we don't know like the if then or the what of if that doesn't work out. So yeah, that's a big one. So from there, basically going into business and career. So this is where we have like our two major goals that we've set for this 6-month period, from January 2026 to July 1st, 2026. And it is about 2.5 months done from that goal. So we're not halfway, we're almost halfway. And from like objective measurements, depending on if you're looking at it as it being linear growth, we're definitely not there. But if you look at it maybe from an exponential growth, ideally we're there. But of course that's a little more risky, and if that didn't make sense, right? So if we're at the halfway point in a linear growth, we're halfway to our goal, right? And then we reach up here, which is like, okay, we're maintaining equal growth. Well, life isn't always like that typically, right? And a lot of things, obviously like working out is actually the reverse of exponential. You see a lot of gains and then it actually minimalizes and then you're just maintaining, but neither here nor there. With business, there is a lot of like exponential growth that kind of comes after you kind of hash out these specific problems. Then you see a lot, actually I believe service-based businesses actually grow like this. Let me see if I don't know which way this is going to show, but it's almost like stair steps where you grow, you reach a constraint, you grow, you reach a constraint, you go, you reach a constraint. So now hopefully over those horizons, those constraints can increase you more exponentially, but again, that's just like a theory that I'm hoping for because we're behind. And then to reinforce those goals, our current goals are 100K revenue in the first 6 months of the year, which we're currently like, we were at 8 at the end of February. We'll probably be at 10 through Q1, which means we'll only hit 20, which means we'll only be at like 20% of our goal at this linear rate, which is a little scary. But our second goal, which is already kind of coming into fruition, is developing a secondary revenue source for the warm months for when firewood isn't productive. So just so you guys know, over the last 7 or 8 months, we've done about 35K in revenue in our business. Not crazy numbers. Business's first year in this location, and with this brand and model, with this structure. So to me, that's pretty good. Again, like we're doing, firewood, lawn care, landscape. This is one of the like bare bone successful business models that's kind of out there. Definitely, there's a lot more growth and potential for those marketing agencies, AI agencies, SaaS, software production that people want to do. But for me, it was kind of like, hey, like I had a lot of leverage in doing these because of the available equipment and land resources I have, being in the South, coming from a little bit of money, not actual money, but not growing up poor is I think the best way to put it. And so that was my best way to capitalize quickly. The goal is to make it a cash flow machine that can basically, provide stability, cover personal expenses at a base level, and as well as invest everything else into, I think real estate investments, which would kind of be the next level business that I would see myself getting into by my 30s. So so that's kind of the long-term goal, the 5-year plan. We do a little personal training on the side as well in business and for business and career wise. That's kind of like our safety net. Like say, I think it would be I think owning a gym would be another super cool business, except I don't think the model is going to be as successful, or the market isn't going to be as successful as it was in like the 2010s. I think that there was a lot of potential between 2015 and 2025. Now we're going to start seeing some like supplementation, and you see the peptide trends, you see the TRT trends. Like there's just a lot more you can do that isn't about necessarily like leasing gym equipment, because basically that's what a gym is. It's selling you on a dream or an ideal goal, and then it's leasing you equipment, saying this is how to get to it. I don't think the machines are ever going to go obsolete. I think you're going to need to work out for at least the next 10, 20 years before we provide safe science, but I think there's going to be a lot more implementation of knowledge and supplementation in that field. And then to kind of pin the nail on the coffin for business and career, like my main, like I would say, like mission statement through life that I think like in my generation is going to be where I provide the most value is I'm very interested in where the development of AI automation in business, as well as biohacking to influence quality of life, is going the direction it's going in. So those are two realms and areas that I feel like are kind of bigger picture what I'm looking at, and then these specific careers, businesses are how I am kind of, pushing those through like reality, or the vessels I'm using to get there. So that's kind of business and career. Obviously, time-wise, that takes up the most time, as most people spend the majority of their week or time in their business and career. And it's just like, from a time-consuming point of view, you have 168 hours in a week. You're spending about, let's just say you sleep 8 hours a day, and I think that's just because that's the average. We'll just do that. That's 56 hours a week. You're only left with what, like 112 hours to do everything else. There's about, if you are exercising, that takes another, let's say at the bare minimum, like 10 hours a week. And that's not bare minimum, but let's just say on average, travel time, prep, all that stuff, we'll just round it off. You're about at 102 hours. You need grocery, gas, you need errands, groceries, laundry, cleaning time. That's another, let's just say 5 to 10 hours. You're at like 90 hours. So then if you're even gonna split like the rest of your time, just 50% work, 50% personal, because you're gonna need to provide for the personal, unless something else is providing for you, which is fine. Like you're gonna spend 50% of that time on business and career, which is pretty insane. But that's just how it is. That's how the world works. Most people, spend all their life, working and sleeping. So that's not my goal, but that's just kind of how the world is, kind of like how it is, man, to be honest. So that's why I spend a lot of time on these videos focusing on that. So we'll kind of speed run through the last few goals, because I feel like those 4 I just identified are like definitely up there in terms of like importance, more than the other ones. And so after that, you really get to, sorry, I just looked at my roommate's bong, and I'm like, I want to clean that so bad. But like, if you clean your roommate's bong, is that kind of like overstepping a boundary? Like maybe they don't want it clean, right? Like I have reasons, like I want it to be clean because like it is healthier, it looks better, but like, again, like it's not my fucking bong. Anyway, like that's just fucking stupid. I don't even smoke right now just because of land. I think I talked to you guys about that, but that's pretty much the main gist. We'll say this for the last 4 goals that are kind of almost the secondary goals, which is goal setting and systems, finance and education, and content creation. Those all directly correlate to the information I've given on the 4 topics above. So that's kind of where I'm at. That was a rundown of, like I said, the 8 pillars. That's always going to be like main context of these, at least like catch up videos. So I might even create like a separate, not like, I guess like playlist, or like, like these are the videos where I'm running them down for the week. I know the inputs that I need to be more successful. Another quick thing I wanted to touch up on is we have a lot of revenue from this new secondary revenue source, where it's not to the level of firewood, but if it grows like this, even linearly or exponentially, like we should be good. So it's good to hear on that end, right? Other than that, the second segment or the other segments I'd have in these videos is really just when I'm gonna be like spitting life advice. And like when I just feel like I need to tell you something. For instance, like I did a how to close video. You know, if there's like a specific thing that I feel like I need to work on, for example, when like I kind of need to turn systems back on, when I just feel like you know, there's not a lot of checks and balances and I'm not being consistent, and the systems I have put in place to be successful in these pillars, I'll kind of, you know, rant about that. But ultimately, like I get these videos aren't super interesting. They're very obviously personal to me. So, you know, they're not always the most like algorithmically hitting or, you know, successful videos for others. That's why I always say they're more so for myself. But other than that, I hope you get something out of them. If you like them, you know, keep watching them. Like I said, I more so make them for myself. Hopefully, you know, if someone's watching them is in a similar position as me, and then sees the growth over a year, they're like, okay, this is possible to do for a year. And then hopefully I'll have stuff to show for. And then, like I've said before, adding content creation as the 8th pillar. Hopefully I can make these more beneficial to you guys. It's not only important that I communicate my thoughts outwards, but I would say it's equally, if not more important, that they can be received not only from myself, but others, especially if I'm gonna keep posting these publicly. So anyway, have a great week, guys. Keep working towards your goals. Always realign with faith and your objectives, and hold on to that entropy. Peace out.